But, Mr. Speaker, we asked ourselves whether in our assessment of savings, we are only focusing on the formal and forgetting about the informal. Where I come from, our people save in the form of livestock. I went to school from the proceeds of livestock. My father, whatever little he built, rental houses or a commercial property somewhere, was because he kept cattle. And at maturity, he would send us to the market to liquidate that cattle and convert it to cash. There are those of us from northern Kenya who owns herds of camels. And Mr. Speaker, they might be wealthier than many of us who keep our money in commercial banks and in fixed deposits. Because if you look at one camel, it's probably 150,000. And when you see those people walk around with the camels, you might look down upon them, but perhaps they've got more wealth than we do. Savings is not just about what is in the bank. And I'd like the president, because he brought this conversation about the informal economy and the hustlers, that we must look beyond what is sitting with custodians, what is sitting with pension funds, and what is sitting with the NSSF. Mr. Speaker, the 6,000 shillings matched with 2,000 shillings at the end of the year sounds very sexy. But if you break it down, Mr. Speaker, that's 8,000 shillings in a year. 8,000 in 20 years, that will be 160,000 shillings as a pension benefit to that individual. What can that do? We know when we go to our constituencies, 160,000 is something you'll spend in 2 churches. It sounds very nice that the president and the nation is going to contribute to match 2,000 for every 6,000 paid at the end of the year. But that is not enough, Mr. Speaker. I want the president to look at the regulatory framework that governs the financial services sector and particularly the pension sector. Mr. Speaker, I spent a few years in that sector, and I do recall there's a time the industry came up with a product called the Mbao Pension Plan. The Mbao Pension Plan was an idea to bring the Juakali sector into the formal pensions sector. And so the Juakali people would contribute 20 shillings on a daily basis using a mobile innovation, using an app. Mr. Speaker, since 2018, the success of this Mbao pension plan has been affected by a number of issues. First of all, if we are going to allow our young people in the gig economy to come up with innovations similar to the innovations they've come up with in the banking sector and in the mainstream loans, the mobile lending sector, we must look at the various bodies that have been set up to regulate the pensions and savings sector. Insurance companies provide pensions products. They are regulated by the Insurance Regulatory Authority. Then you've got the Retirement Benefits Authority. Then you have got the securities, is it called NSE? Nairobi Securities Exchange, which has got its own regulator. Then you've got another regulator, a 4th regulator, which regulates SACCOs, which is another avenue of savings, SASRA. There are about 5, if not 6 regulators in that space. Why can't we streamline the roles of these regulators so that you can provide one combined product that will then capture pensions, will capture SACCOs, will capture a life insurance product, and then we can allow our innovators to come up with quick products rather than this matching of 2,000 to 6,000. I agree with the president that this is urgent and this is important, but I want to encourage him and his policymakers to think broadly. How do we bring into the formal economy the owners of camels and the owners of cows and the owners of goats? How do we bring into the formal economy the farmer in Kitale who has harvested several bags of maize? We came up with a warehouse receipt system bill in this house, Mr. Speaker. It has not been implemented because the grain in a farmer's warehouse in Kitale can also be looked at as savings. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, on paragraph 51, the president talks of the Senate fund. I was a bit disappointed today to encounter the committees in the order paper. I wish one of the things that we would have prioritized was a monitoring and evaluation select committee. Mr. Speaker, I've been in this House and I've been part of these conversations. We came up with regulations. We proposed that we get a 1 billion shilling fund. We came up with purposes of the fund, administration of the fund, structures, and even proposed that we have a monitoring and evaluation committee of the House. I want to encourage the House leadership at SPC. The president has shown goodwill. The only reason why we didn't get this money previously was that the president then did not have a lot of time for the Senate. Let's take advantage of that goodwill and ensure that that fund is in place. Mr. Speaker, on budget